1, 2, 3, 4.
Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling, chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling, chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now.
What up, y'all? Babylon 5 podcast. It's your boy, Jermaine Event. How's everybody doing? This is episode 187. I'm calling this bad boy Answers. Some questions have been answered, and some questions will be answered. This is episode 187, as I said, answers. And we are going to run down at least Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman 3. We're at least going to run that down. We're going to talk about that. We could talk about some of the other fights on the card as I see fit. It was an interesting card. I don't always believe in your hype trains. I'm very skeptical. I'm not a casual. I try to watch every fight from the prelims on. So that's why last year, Alexa Grasso is my fighter of the year. And people are looking at me like, okay, Alexa Grasso? And then she wins the belt from the proclaimed greatest female fighter alive. And people were like, what the fuck? How did she do it? I saw it coming. I don't believe in your hype train. So one hype train got derailed. I felt like it got derailed in her last fight, but we can talk about it briefly here. I didn't realize how passionately I'd feel about that, actually. I didn't put any pictures in here to talk about that fight. So now I feel like I should have. Because you simps tuck an L. Weird ass simps tuck an L. I don't understand it. We're going to talk about Corey Sandhagen versus Chito Vera. We're going to talk about it next week. That's the main event, Corey Sandhagen versus Chito Vera. And I asked the question on Twitter. I just threw it out there. Any questions for the podcast? And we got a question. We got a question last week, but after I recorded the podcast, so I was like, I'm just going to use this question for next week, and we're going to call this episode Answers. And, and then I'll ask maybe sometime this week if anyone has any questions for the podcast going forward. But, yeah, we're going to talk about some things, and if you guys would like to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. If you guys would like to email this podcast, it's Babylon5podcast@gmail.com. If you guys would like to hit that like button, go ahead and hit that like button anywhere that you're listening to this podcast. I'd appreciate it so much. If you guys are watching the video on YouTube, I'm drinking from this cup here. If you go to this like tiki bar down the street called Foundation, it's not down the street. It's down a street. It's not that close to me. Anywho. But I fucks with Foundation. If you go down there, if you buy certain drinks, you get to take home the cup. I think I got pretty much all of them. I'm all about a commemorative fucking cup or whatever. I was talking to Unified Rules of Podcast. We were talking about the cost. Well, they hit me up because I've complained here a few times, if not all the time, about when I go to live shows, and I'm like, dude, I spent too much money not to show up and be there for all the fights. Like, I spent too much money just to not watch all the fights. It's ridiculous. But then there's so many people who sit in front of me. Like, when I was looking at when I went to UFC 285 2 weeks ago, the seats in front of me were at the low end to $8,000. All right, low end $8,000. And most of those people didn't show up until the last 4 fights. That's crazy to me. So they hit me up like with a picture of the fucking front row, like, don't you love this? I'm like, absolutely not. All right, this is the worst possible thing that I could see. I actually forgot how I got on this rant. I hope it mattered. But if you guys would like to hit that like button anywhere that you listen to this podcast. Oh, because I'm drinking this glass here. I got this glass here. Somehow that led to that rant. So that's the point. So this cup here, and we were talking about how like the price of those seats and people. I'm saying low end $8,000 to sit on the floor, and which is terrible view. It's a terrible view. I've sat on the floor when UFC came here, as I've said. We were in the third row, and if the fight went to the ground, good luck. They weren't playing the shit on the fucking Jumbotron in the Pfizer Forum. They weren't playing the shit on the screen. So it was like, all right, it went to the ground. Hopefully it doesn't end on the ground because I'm going to miss everything. Okay? But I'm saying, like, with the prices that they're charging, $8,000. Like, when I was a kid, if you went to WWE, like a pay-per-view, you'd get to take home the seat. It'd be like a special seat that had the pay-per-view and like images and shit on it. And you get to take that shit home at the end of the night. If I'm paying $8,000, which I will never do. But if I was hypothetically crazy enough to pay fucking, I mean, if I was in a position that I could, then whatever. I will eat these words. I'll happily just pay $8,000 to sit down there. But if I do, give me a fucking commemorative fucking item to take home. Give me something. Give me a code to watch the goddamn pay-per-view when I get back home if I want to watch some fights back. I just paid thousands. Regardless of where I'm sitting, I just paid thousands to come see this goddamn show. Give me some commemorative cup or chair for my shit. I'm all about it. So if you guys are watching the video, that's my little babble about that. So go ahead and hit that like button anywhere that you're listening to this podcast. If you guys would like to follow this podcast on Twitch, go ahead to twitch.tv/BabbleOn5. If you guys would like to cop some merchandise, head on over to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. If you guys are hearing this, remind me. Say, hey, nigga, all right, or hey, sir. I think most of the people that listen to this podcast are white. Say, hey, sir, order a fucking Babylon 5 podcast hoodie, a sweatshirt, before April 1st, nigga. Hurry up and do this so that you can promote the podcast at Game Bread Boxing, April 1st, you know? So I can promote the podcast at Game Bread Boxing. Just remind me. I keep forgetting. I've forgotten. Probably every week for the last 3.5 years. Whenever that merchandise came out, probably like 3 years ago, I've been meaning to cop a hoodie. I had the Boars shit. It's gone by now. I did have the Boars face mask when that was a time. I still have it somewhere. I think it's like hanging up over there. But yeah, I need to get that hoodie. And y'all need to get that hoodie too. Go head on over to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. Cop yourself a Babylon 5 podcast sweatshirt. If you guys would like to be my patron, head on over to patreon.com/Babylon5pod. You could be my patron. UFC 286 went down yesterday. All right. Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards 3, the trilogy. Kamaru took the first fight, Rocky. Leon Edwards takes the second fight via late head kick. In a fight that, had the clock run down, would have definitely gone to Kamaru. And what happened in the trilogy fight, ladies and gentlemen? Rocky looked like Rocky of old in this fight. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, so in the last fight with Kamaru, Kamaru pretty much dominated Leon Edwards, right, in that fight. And people, and you know, the general opinion was just like, dude, Kamaru is just that much better than Leon Edwards. But like, did Leon Edwards look like the same fighter in that fight that we saw against Nate Diaz? Because what happened at the end of that fight, yeah, Nate Diaz caught him with a 1-2 in the last bit of that fight. Caught him with the 1-2, and people were like, yeah, Nate. I was super excited. I didn't know too much about Leon at the time, but I do know that for 90% of that fight, he was touching that boy to fuck up. Surgical. He was fucking Nate Diaz up. Alright? Fucking Nate Diaz up. That's what he looked like in there. Just amazing striking. Alright? That's what he looked like in there. Jesus Christ. I don't script it that much. I try to give myself a general outline. But I guess right now I'm feeling a little passionate. I got it queued up here. I got his record queued up here now that I'm thinking about it. I sometimes don't prepare that much, but... So he looked surgical against Nate Diaz. Before the eye poke against Belal Muhammad, if we're going off just the first round against Belal Muhammad, he looked fucking surgical in there and caught him clean with that head kick that Belal said, I ate that shit. He was looking surgical in there against Belal Muhammad. You know what he looked like against Rafael Dos Anjos? Fucking surgical. He looked amazing against Gunnar Nelson. And then unfortunately got 3-pieced in a soda following that fight by Jorge Masvidal. All I'm saying is when he fought Usman the second time, the previous fight, he did not look like Leon that we had been seeing. Fucking surgical out there with his striking. Up until the 5th round, when he got the knockout. Then he looked like Leon. He looked like Leon in the first round, when he took Usman down. Then Usman, as we saw in the previews, it was like Usman came at him very aggressive in the second round, and he was like, Leon's eyes like got big, and like he just like shelled up. All right, he came at him in a way he wasn't expecting, and Leon didn't handle it well for the most of that fight up until the finish happened. So in this fight. If we can finally talk about this fight, Leon and still defends his belt against Kamaru Usman. A lot of people are saying, I don't think Usman looked any worse than he has been, as he's been considered one of the greatest welterweights of all time. I don't think he looked any worse. I think Rocky was on tonight. All right? He looked like he was more prepared for this moment. He was attacking the legs. He was hurting Usman. He hurt Usman to the body at least twice with these body kicks. He was just like, I think by the 3rd or 4th round, they were showing how like Edwards had barely thrown any kicks to the head, but he thrown like over 40 leg kicks, 40 body kicks. And it's just like he's conditioning him to drop those hands so he can catch him with a head kick. He didn't get the headshot dead as he did in the last fight. But what he did was he outpointed him. He was touching Usman up, moving. He was getting backed up, but then he'd circle out and not let his back get against the octagon. All right, we saw a surgical Leon Edwards in this fight that we should have saw. We saw the Leon that we should have saw in the second fight. But it is what it is. It happened how it did. And now we have, and still, Leon Edwards. So I don't know what happens next with Kamaru Usman. I think I'd like to see him. I would like to see him fight Tony Ferguson next if we can do something like that. That's the kind of nigga that I am. But what's possibly next, what is next for Leon Edwards is Colby Chaos Covington. Potentially at International Fight Week. And I was like, God damn it, I just said I wasn't going to fucking go to any more events, especially not this year. I said I wasn't going to go to any more events, but fucking god damn it. They're talking about potentially Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards, International Fight Week. Leon Edwards, he's afraid, as he should be. He's worried. He's like, I don't know what Colby has done to just warrant a title shot. So he's saying, he said he hasn't fought in over a year. I don't know what he has done to warrant a title shot. It's been a year and like 2 weeks, by the way. Because I went to Vegas last year in March, like March 5th, to watch Colby fight. That was the last time he fought. He's like, he hasn't fought in over a year, like a year and 2 weeks, so chill out, relax. And Leon is saying he would much rather fight Masvidal, the guy that Colby beat a year and 2 weeks ago, who also hasn't fought since he lost to Colby a year and 2 weeks ago. I don't understand the logic here for Leon Edwards, but let's see what Dana White has to say when he was asked at the press conference about the situation. Please don't copyright
Leon in
me.
July. I'm curious if that's a fight you're interested in, or do you need to see how it plays out?
Yeah, I don't know when we'll do it, but yeah, that's the fight that makes sense.
What did he say?
Covington cage side. He wants to fight
Covington.
Leon in July. I'm curious if that's a fight you're interested in, or do you need to see how it plays out?
Yeah, I don't know when we'll do it, but yeah, that's the fight that makes sense. And Colby came here and cut weight, and did everything to be here for this fight. He deserves the fight.
So it's Leon Edwards.
Not to mention the fact that he's, the second or third best guy in the world.
So it is Leon
Second or
versus
third
Colby
best
next.
guy in the world.
Yeah.
Colby was in here and he said that.
That's what Dana White says is next. Leon Edwards is like, nah, man, it doesn't make any sense. He hasn't fought. You didn't even know he was the backup fighter. All right? Colby was there as the backup fighter. Nobody even told Leon Edwards that there was a possibility that he would potentially be fighting Colby Covington, and he didn't even know. Okay? He's saying no to the idea of fighting Colby. It's out of your hands, my guy. Like, it's happening. That's who you're fighting next. Let's see what Dana White had to say when they asked him about Islam Makhachev calling for a fight with Leon Edwards next. Let's see what happens.
Hi.
I know you said that Colby would be next for Leon, but I'm wondering if you saw that Islam Makhachev said that he would like to fight Leon in Abu Dhabi. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, Colby's next.
Oh,
Yeah,
Colby's next.
And I know you spoke about
We're going.
Fuck all that Islam Makhachev noise. Trying to go for champ status, even if you want to do it, Colby's next. Colby's next. Lots of people were saying, a lot of people had issue with them announcing Colby Covington as the next fighter, is getting the next title shot. They're like, he doesn't deserve it. He hasn't beat a fighter coming off a win since blah, blah, blah. But I haven't heard anybody talk shit about Leon Edwards saying, hey, I don't want to fight the guy that just beat Masvidal a year ago because it makes more sense for me to fight Masvidal. That makes no fucking sense. It does make sense for him to fight Colby, who's coming off a win over Masvidal. Okay? Only losses that he has, other than fucking Warley Alves years ago, is Usman, who you just wrestled the belt from. You just got that belt from him. And now Colby's back. Dana has said that, like, if there was no Kamaru Usman, that Colby Covington would be the champion. They have high praise of Colby, and they said repeatedly, like, when Colby walked out in London at the O2 Arena, that place went nuts. He said that was the biggest reception anybody got in the arena was Colby Covington. All right, this is happening. This is happening. You know, somebody else was upset about this Colby situation. Bilal Muhammad, who claims he was trying to fight Colby on this card, but apparently he's hearing Colby turned it down, and then to everyone's surprise, basically, Colby weighs in as the backup fighter for the championship. And let's see what Dana White had to say when they asked him about Bilal Muhammad and where he stands in this whole situation.
First question is, you said that Colby is next for Leon Edwards. So where does this situation put Bilal Muhammad? He's on a great win streak. He's been complaining that Colby is ducking him. So what do you think about his position right now?
You know you got a bad accent when my translator doesn't know what you said.
No, I have a bad accident, yeah.
What's next for Bilal? Where's Hunter? Who's Bilal fighting? I forgot. Huh? Yeah.
Shavkat
Rakhmonov.
Jeez.
We're working on it.
And I'm speaking about longer...
That's a fight right there. Bilal's upset. He wanted to fight Colby for pretty much a title eliminator fight. And apparently that didn't materialize. And when they're asking, what's happening with Bilal? Bilal is fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov, who I felt like I was fucking up his name last time, who just fought 2 weeks ago at UFC 285. I was there, live, in Las Vegas, where I fucked my knee up. Yeah, I was there, ladies and gentlemen. I was there. And that's what's happening with Bilal. I know he's upset. His fucking heater's going wild. I know he's upset, but it is what it is. The division will division. I was talking to homeboy online, this homie Tom. I know he was in Vegas as well when I was there, but he was in one of them $8,000 ass seats. Shout out to Tom. It's what is it? T Clark 4. I believe that's what it is. It's Roman numeral, like the I and then the V. I believe that when you put the I in front of the V, that means you subtract one, because I think the V would just be like 5. You put the I in front of it, it's 4. So T Clark 4, T Clark Roman numeral 4 or 6. I don't really necessarily know how that shit worked. But we were talking, we were talking about a lot of shit, and he feels like Bilal, Shavkat, all these people deserve a title fight ahead of Colby. Maybe. This is all a popularity contest. As I pointed out to him, I'm like, this is a place where Jose Aldo got a title fight against Petr Yan after he lost to Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes didn't get the title fight. He ultimately fought a title fight against Henry Cejudo. Later. Or am I wrong here? Am I fucking that up? Or did he move down, I believe? That must be different weight classes. I'm misremembering something. But they gave Jose a title fight after he lost to Marlon Moraes. I was there for that fight, too. Saw that shit live. That was pretty hype. But he agrees that shit is not fair. This is my thing. They gave him the belt. They gave him the title shot because he's more popular than Marlon Moraes. He's the fan favorite, so it makes sense. Who does it make sense to get the title fight next against Leon Edwards at welterweight? It only makes sense to give the title shot to Colby Covington. He weighed in as the backup fighter. And he's the most popular guy outside of Usman. It only makes sense to give it to Colby Covington. So that's the fight happening next. I'm pretty hyped about that. It just only makes sense. There's more I wanted to get in there as we were talking about, but it is what it is, man. Conor was ranked for years. Conor McGregor was ranked at welterweight in like the top 10 for years with no justification. I think finally they took him out maybe a few months ago. They took him out of the rankings. But he was there with no logic for years. Also on UFC 286, man, I wish I just put the card up there. I didn't think about it. But we had Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev, which was wild. Fiziev looked pretty strong in the first round. I thought he was going to finish Gaethje. He was hurting Gaethje with these hooks. He's just real fast. And then by the end of it, Gaethje was just fucking this man up with uppercuts and just destroyed Fiziev by the end of that. So I was wrong there in my prediction, but it is what it is. I think it's more interesting if Fiziev wins, but he didn't. So on to the next one. Gaethje is saying he would like to fight Oliveira next. Says he wants to run that one back because he felt like he fought like an idiot in that fight. So he would like to fight either Oliveira or Dustin Poirier next in a rematch as well. So either one is cool. Fiziev, I'm not sure what happens with him next. Maybe Gamrot. Maybe he should fight Gamrot next. Because all you do is just keep fighting, right? You just keep fighting. Gunnar Nelson got a quick victory, quick submission over Brian Barberena, as he should. Jennifer Maia versus Casey O'Neill. All right, Jennifer Maia gets the win here against Casey O'Neill. I didn't like the hype train of Casey O'Neill. This is who I was alluding to earlier in the podcast. She's now falls to 9-1. King Casey O'Neill gets her first loss. But, dude, when you saw her fight Roxanne Modafferi, yeah, she somehow, she got a decision victory. Maybe she should have got it. But with the way she looked in that fight, nigga, this is your queen? This is the guy you guys are fucking hype about, you simps? Just can't control yourself over this fighter? This is the fighter? It made no sense to me. So I had to roll with Jennifer Maia in my predictions and my picks. And she fucking dominates Casey O'Neill. People were saying, oh, Casey fought hard. And it's I'm not being a hater when I'm saying she looked like shit. When she was so one-dimensional that Maia was just piecing her up by the end of it. Because she kept just trying to come forward with the same entry, same attacks. And Maia was just, her boxing was phenomenal. She was all over her. She was working her. I'm not hating if I'm saying she looked fucking terrible in there. I'm saying she had a lot to work on. I'm saying I didn't understand the hype when I saw her fight Roxanne Modafferi. And you guys know how I felt about Roxanne Modafferi, who was fucking blind in there, clearly could not, barely see the people in front of her. You see her fucking, like, now that my vision is going, and I see how, like, if I forget my glasses and I'm walking to the gym, and I'm like, fuck, I forgot my glasses. But it's like, I'm already in stride. I'm going. And and usually if people start to appear, like, I usually go to the gym early as fuck in the morning. And then if I'm walking back, at that point, there's people outside. Like, when I'm walking there, it's dark. And there's nobody outside except for random white person or something that I run into. And we both are like, don't try to rob or murder me. You know what I'm saying? We both go into that real quick. But by the way I'm walking back, it's usually a lot of people around. Fuck. I don't even know why I just... I lost my train of thought there. I don't remember why I got into that whole rant there. Don't remember. Oh, Rob Modafferi. So as I'm walking back, right, now that my vision is going, I'm always like, once or even if I have my glasses with me, once I see someone coming and I look over at them and it's just blurry as fuck, and I'm like squinting and doing this like wide-eyed to squint thing, I'm like, fuck, I can't even see this shit. And if I don't have the glasses, that's just a constant thing of me trying to like readjust and like see things in front of me. Like, without my vision is getting so poor these days that I'm constantly doing that. And before my vision started going, I would see that with Roxanne Modafferi, and I'd be like, dude, she's fucking blind in there. She can't see anything. Look at her. Look what she's doing. And now that it's happening to me, I know for a fact Roxanne Modafferi is fucking blind in there. You guys are crazy. Just come forward with some jabs and just piece her up. But, like, nah, that's not what happened. For a lot of people, unfortunately. And Casey O'Neill looked terrible, in my opinion, against Roxanne Modafferi. So I felt like it was pretty obvious that somebody who, in my opinion, performed well against Valentina Shevchenko and Jennifer Maia was going to piece up Casey O'Neill, and she definitely did. Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. I thought Dolidze won that fight. I picked him to win that fight, and I thought he was going to win that fight. And when I watched it live, a lot of people thought he won that fight. You saw, like, Marab tweeting out congratulations to Roman before the judges read the scorecard. People are tweeting congrats to Dolidze. And then Vettori is giving the win. Dean Thomas tweets out, according to the judging criteria, Roman Dolidze should have won that fight. I was salty because, like, had I won that fight, I would have won my DraftKings competition. But it was just whatever. I lost on that fight and then Rafael Fiziev. Those were the only fights that I lost. Anywho, I won on Jack Shore. Congrats to Jack Shore moving up in weight, fighting Makwan Amirkhani, man. Jack Shore looked tiny in there. He looked tiny and like he had no muscle on his body. He needs to fucking put on weight. He looked small against Amirkhani, and he was struggling in the first round. And then Amirkhani tired out in the second, was fucking exhausted in the second round. So Jack Shore took over. But he looked tiny, and he looked to have problems in the first round with the giant Makwan Amirkhani that likes to grapple as well. So Jack Shore gets the victory in his new weight class, but he looks small. He needs to put on some weight. Chris Duncan defeats Omar Morales. Split decision. That was a good fight. I like that fight a lot. Yanal Ashmaz, who was the captain of my team on DraftKings, gets the early knockout of Sam Patterson. Probably the most viral knockout of the night. Muhammad Makayev submits Rafael Filho out of Brazil. At one point in this Filho had a knee bar on Mokaev, and he twisted that knee. It was like all the way backwards. It's just like the knee don't twist that way, and he was completely twisting it back bending it back that way. The knee don't bend that way, and he was bending it that way. And then Mokaev, he was able to snot tap to that position and get out of there eventually. And as he was able to get back on top, the commentary team, they're like, yo, he's wincing. They're like, there's probably something wrong with his knee because he's wincing with every movement. And then he was somehow able to stay in the grappling and take Filho's back and get a rear naked choke. And then he could barely stand up after that. So it was like, had Filho just had he been able to just last, I think it was 28 seconds left in the round when he tapped. If he was able to fend off the submission and make it to the end of the round. Oh, that was round 3, so that would have been the end of the fight. That would have been the end of the fight. So Mokaev gets the finish there, and then he can barely stand. So I'm not sure of the damage to his knee, but it looked pretty bad at the time. Lerone Murphy defeats Gabriel Santos. That was a pretty back and forth fight. That was a good fight, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that was a pretty good fight. Lerone Murphy versus Gabriel Santos. That's a fight. I feel like people, if you missed that fight, go back and check that fight out. Christian Leroy Duncan versus Dusko Todorovic ends in the first round. Todorovic has a knee injury. They're grappling up against the fence, and Todorovic's knee just pops out on the side. I was like, dude, that's me back in Las Vegas. His knee just popped out. So Christian Leroy Duncan gets the victory via KO due to knee injury, but it is what it is. Jake Hadley defeats Malcolm Gordon with a fucking beautiful hook to the body, and it just drops Malcolm Gordon. This is the first round. All right? This is the first round. He just dropped that boy. What a beautiful hook to the body. Jake Hadley, that's a name to keep in mind. He climbs to 10-1 with this victory, this first round defeat of Malcolm Gordon. He looked great. Joanne Wood defeated Luana Carolina. I picked Carolina to win this fight. And then when I was watching the fight, they were talking about, Carolina was the person who got knocked out by fucking whack-ass Molly McCann. I was like, I didn't know that was her. I would have never even thought she was going to beat Joanne Wood. Y'all remember when Joanne Wood and Andrea KGB Lee, who's fighting next week, were in a beef about, she's not going to get a title fight for me. She doesn't deserve... Andrea Lee is she doesn't deserve a title shot over me because she has a cute accent. They were hype about her. They were hyping her up because of her accent. But it is what it is. I'm just saying, remember when that was a thing. Boy, have the times changed. Boy, have the times changed. But Joanne Wood gets the W over Luana Carolina. Jai Herbert, who I felt was just much better than Ludovic Klein. He gets... That fight was a draw. Was there a point deduction in that bad boy? I can't remember. I feel like there was a point deduction. It ends in a draw. I know Jai was sticking his fingers out, and there's a lot of situation there, but that fight somehow ended in a draw. I have no faith in Ludovic Klein, but it is what it is. Veronica Hardy looked fantastic against Jar Jar Binks, a.k.a. Juliana Miller. Juliana Miller looked fucking terrible in there. And that's not me being a hater. That's me just being a nigga that watched the fight. She looked fucking terrible. I was like, fuck, she needs to work on everything. Her grappling, her fucking striking, everything. She looked terrible in there. Terrible. She was just chasing her, not really cutting her off. And even if she did, she came forward with this like weird overhand, like just one, trying to throw like a crazy knockout punch. Okay, that's what she did the whole time. Juliana Miller looked fucking terrible. That's the Ultimate Fighter winner. Does the Ultimate Fighter mean anything? Does it mean anything at all? See, this is what I never really understood about shows like Ultimate Fighter, because like if you're gonna look for like young ass fighters to fight each other in a competition, to then see which one of these young ass fighters is then gonna just be given a contract to fight who you are claiming are the best fighters in the world, right? Everybody else that didn't win that fucking didn't get their contract off of that bullshit ass show. You're saying those people are the best fighters in the world that you've fucking handpicked from around the world, fighting from that organization. They didn't win this bullshit. I'm young as fuck, and I'm on a reality show. And then you have Juliana Miller, who gets a victory to win the Ultimate Fighter and looks great against another lesser competition fucking person. And she comes out here against Veronica Hardy, who hasn't fought in like 2-3 years. And Veronica Hardy fucking dominates. Veronica Hardy looks like a fucking problem, but at the same time, I'm like, you gotta take note of the competition. Juliana Miller looked like she had no business in the UFC. I'm not saying she couldn't one day be a UFC fighter, but as far as right now, she's no business in the UFC. She should go back. She should go to Invicta and get some fights. I'll get some other ladies, some more experienced ladies, work on some things. But right now, I feel like she's going to get fucking pieced up and get her ass beat by pretty much anybody in the UFC. She looked terrible. And that's your fucking Ultimate Fighter winner. How do I think Muhammad Usman is going to do? I think he's going to do terrible against a fucking actual UFC fighter. We got Corey Sandhagen versus Chito Vera. This is an interesting fight. Corey Sandhagen, the 5'11", Chito 5'8", pretty much same reach. Chito has a half-inch reach advantage. Somehow at 5'8", he has the reach advantage over Corey Sandhagen. But also he has the fight experience advantage, which means something to me. They're both 30 years old. I guess Corey is like a month away from 31, so... And Chito just turned 30, so they're about a year apart. Corey 31 and having 19 fights. Chito having 30 fights and being 30, like about a year younger than him. All right, so they use their time differently here. I'm looking at Tapology. Ooh, see, this fight is interesting. According to Tapology, you have 48% for Sandhagen, 52% for Chito Vera. I think this fight... I don't think... Man, I don't know. I was going to say I don't think that Sandhagen can finish Chito. I feel like Chito has a chin. I feel like Chito is pretty tough. But I think Chito is also a slow starter. All right? It depends on when Chito gets going. And we've seen Corey, as of recently, be a pretty strong early on in his fights. And then it's usually by the 4th, 5th round is when we see tides trying to, like, pretty much turning for Corey. Like, even with the Song Yadong fight, Song was catching him. Song's powerful. But that cut, and the doctors were like, no, And even Corey was like, nah, man, like, I didn't want the fight to end that way because he's fucking tough. He still has a lot in him. He was doing pretty good. There was a chance that Song could have definitely ended that fight. So it ended how it did. But my thing is, it's like, I mean, if history has shown us anything, it all depends on that third round, I guess. Because you're going to have Corey with his movements. He's trying to touch. He's trying to circle and catch you with fucking high, fucking dynamic knees. Fucking just all kinds of shit. He's going to throw. I was comparing the way Corey Sandhagen, his creative striking. I'm not saying they're identical in how they strike, but I compare it to Yair Rodriguez in the creativeness. Like, you're going to get some different shit. I think it's hard to game plan for what you're going to get in the stand-up for Corey Sandhagen early on. And as we saw with Petr Yan, as that fight went on, Yan came on strong and just started to beat that ass. He just started to beat that ass. So I see here Corey Sandhagen winning the first 2 rounds at least here against Marlon. But then what happens in that third round? What happens in that fourth round? Damn near history tells me by that fourth round, Chito's going to be dog walking this nigga. That's what history has told me, but I don't know. We'll see what happens here. I think I'm going to have to stick. I think just based off of me babbling right there, I'm rolling with Chito Vera in this one. Yeah, I'm gonna roll with Chito Vera, man. I think he comes on, he's a slow starter, and Sandhagen is a fast starter. But the tides, they shift in such a way where I think it's gonna be fucking damning to Sandhagen. Alright? 31 fights for Chito Vera, pardon me. It's gonna be damning. No, am I wrong? It says here 22, 7, and 1. That's 30. But that image on the screen there said 31 fights for Vera. I'm like, is my math off here? I swear that's 30 fights, but it says 31. Anywho. I'm going with Chito in this one. I just think he's going to be better as the fight goes on. He's just going to put it on Sandhagen. Maybe get a couple 10-8s in rounds 4 and 5, if not the finish. I'm rolling with Chito Vera in that one. You got some interesting fights, I guess. I mean, I'm not too interested in Holly Holm versus Yana Santos, formerly known Yana Kunitskaya. She's married to Thiago Santos. Not too interested in that fight. They're both somehow 14-6. It's crazy how records can mean nothing. Records can mean nothing. Holly Holm should absolutely dominate Yana Kunitskaya. Or Yana Santos, pardon me. She should absolutely dominate. If you're an outsider looking in, you're like, well, they're both 14-6. Those records can mean nothing. Nothing. All right, you got former champion Holly Holm, person to knock out Ronda Rousey back when Ronda looked unstoppable. Holly Holm, decorated boxing champion Yana Kunitskaya, or Santos, pardon me. I don't think she's shown me anything that tells me that she's not just cannon fodder for Holly Holm in this fight. As I mentioned before, Andrea KGB Lee, whose boyfriend was like, they're fucking dirty Mexicans. That's what they do. Racist-ass boyfriend who was then knocked the fuck out by Adrian Yanez and beautifully released by the UFC. That's her boyfriend there. She is fighting Macy Barber. You guys knew I jumped off that Macy Barber bandwagon immediately after she fought Roxanne Modafferi. You know, as I said, like, I'd always scream, dude, Modafferi's fucking blind. So to get her ass beat the way she got her ass beat and then grab the microphone after she lost, the losers. Well, this is a title fight. The losers do not speak. We don't want to hear from you. And she runs up and grabs the microphone and just starts giving a speech. And it's like, I know this is your first time getting your ass beat, but we don't want to hear from you losers. All right. I jumped off that bandwagon. Her father came out. He was just as delusional as Macy. He was like, oh, that's where she gets this delusion. It's hereditary. That's where she gets this goddamn delusion. Her dad is saying the same delusional ass shit. She got her ass beat in that fight. You guys need to admit that and then say we have a lot to work on. And you address those issues in that fight rather than saying, oh no, she got lucky, I got injured. You got hurt because she was beating the fuck out of you. She kept catching you with that jab. She caught you with that jab and you made you move funny, and then that's how your fucking leg got hurt. A non-contact injury. You got your fucking ass beat, but I'm rooting for Macy Barber in this one. Rooting for Macy Barber in this one. You got Alex Perez versus Manel Kape. I'm going for Manel Kape. This is an interesting card here. I'm not going to go over any more fights because it's just how I feel. Yeah. A dollar might just make the lane switch. That's just how I feel. And if you guys would like to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. You guys can email this podcast at Babylon5Podcast@gmail.com. If you guys would like to hit that like button anywhere that you're listening to this podcast, I'd appreciate it so much. If you guys would like to follow this podcast on Twitch, you can follow me at twitch.tv/Babylon5. You guys can cop some merchandise. Head on over to teespring.com/BOFpod-shop. And lastly, don't just be my niche. Be my patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/Babylon5Pod and you can be my patron today. Well, hold on. I was like, whoa, let me get out of here. And then I was like, oh shit, this episode 187 answers. And I was like, nigga, you didn't answer the questions. Or the one question. The one question that I want to answer before I get out of here. I gave you guys social media, so I'm not going to do it again. As I said, Unified Rules of Podcast asked me what are my favorite MMA accounts or YouTubers. And I would say, I don't want to be too cliche, but off the top of my head, it's like the Weasel. Obviously, I love the Weasel's videos. Luke Thomas. I love everything that not everything that Luke Thomas does. It seems like, how do I want to go about this? So, it's like if you're Ariel Helwani, who I love, I really respect. All right, so that's why I'm like, how do I approach this? Let's say if you're Ariel Helwani and you're Jewish, and you're like, I need to speak about Kyrie Irving and what I think he meant by doing this and how I feel about what I think he meant by doing this. Fuck what he said he was doing. All right, so you put those out there and you feel like you need to. But yet, those same outlets like Luke Thomas, Ariel Helwani, they will happily interview Gordon Ryan. They'll be fucking throating fucking Gordon Ryan all the way to the balls for Gordon Ryan. And if you're like, well, what's wrong with Gordon Ryan? Don't they put that motherfucker's picture up at fucking jiu-jitsu schools? Fuck Gordon Ryan. I used to look up to Gordon Ryan. I used to want to be the black Gordon Ryan. Turns out Gordon Ryan don't fuck with niggas. Gordon Ryan says all black people just want things given to them. He says the only black person that tries to work hard and do things for themselves is Tyron fucking Woodley. He mentioned Tyron Woodley by name. He's the only black person that's trying to do things for themselves. Everyone else are lazy and just want things done for them. Bloody Elbow was the only person, only outlet to do a story on. He was posting all this anti-Asian shit when COVID was going on. He was constantly posting racist shit. And I love people like fucking Luke Thomas, Ariel. I try to fucking look up to these MMA accounts and personalities. But then when I see you guys just fucking turn a blind eye to shit like that, but then you'll happily comment on shit like Kyrie, regardless. You know, this is why I don't watch the NFL anymore. And when I say to people, they fucking shit on Kaepernick and other black players. You had white owners saying if you kneel on my field, you won't have a job here. And those owners weren't removed. They weren't removed from those teams for saying these very fucking crazy statements. Nah, they fucking criminalized motherfuckers like Kaepernick. I can't watch it when that's how you guys treat someone who says, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm actually not like protesting the military or any of that shit. I'm actually protesting inequality, social, like racial inequality in the justice system and all this shit that's happening, and there's no accountability. I'm not doing that. And they're like, nah, nigga, we feel like you're doing this, and we're gonna judge you based off of what we're saying. And he's like, nah, that's not what I'm doing. That's not it. And y'all are like, nah, that's how I feel. So y'all feel comfortable. These are still some of my favorite fucking people, but I'm disappointed in people like Ariel Helwani. I'm disappointed in people like Luke Thomas because they turn a blind eye to motherfuckers like Gordon Ryan. They'll still have that motherfucker on their shows fucking throating Gordon Ryan. They'll fucking promote that piece of shit at every fucking turn. And every time I see a new interview where they're interviewing this motherfucker, I'll Google, like, has he apologized? Has he addressed all this nonsense? No, I only see that he defended it. He posted the bullshit and then immediately defended it. And that was the end of it. But I guess, like, there aren't too many prominent black people in the MMA media world, you know what I'm saying? Where they feel like, I don't want to offend that guy. I don't hear Daniel Cormier or Ryan Clark speaking out against this fucking racist and Gordon Ryan. I think that would fucking maybe change things. I didn't know I was going to go on this rant, but it's just so fucking disappointing. These are some of my favorite accounts, but like, Jesus, I wish you could fucking grow a pair. Grow a pair. Jesus. Fucking talk about Conor McGregor, who is tweeting that USADA's going in the bin. You guys refuse to even write articles on this shit. You're not going to mention it on your shows. Ariel asked Conor about the 6 months that he needs to be in the USADA testing pool. And Conor clearly accidentally says, I don't know about no 6 months. I'm told I just give him 2 tests and I'm good to go. And he says it, and as he's saying it, his head jerks because somebody's in his ear like, nigga, shut the fuck up. That's not what this is. That's not public knowledge. And now you just like completely shown that USADA is giving this man favoritism. They've put it out there. No media silence. Ariel edits that part out of the interview as people start to catch wind of what the fuck was just said. That's what this is. I just wish there was a little more fucking integrity. Just a little more integrity. These are still some of my favorite personalities, man. I still watch it. If we're talking about like Twitter, definitely. I like Funky Scouser. I think he's a pretty cool, pretty interesting Twitter personality Josh the Simp, UFC Katie, pretty dope account. Geisha MMA, Unified Rules of Podcast, definitely. They asked this question. Definitely some of my favorites. I know I went on that whole long rant about how they disappointed me. You guys don't disappoint me at all. Let's and also Combat History, T. Clark, Roman numeral 4. You guys are my peeps. I appreciate you guys for fucking with me like you do. Thank you guys so much for being here another week. I'm going to get up out of here, man. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and each other. And I'll see you when I see you. I'll holla.
Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling, chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling bling, chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now.